Hello guys, welcome back to our YouTube channel. In this video we are gonna see, what if Naruto got harem with femKyuubi and Mei? Part 2. If you want more awesome fan fiction like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. So without wasting any time, let's get into the video. Oh come on big bro. Why can't I go help assist in the Wario? Kyuuubi whined while his brow twitched dangerously. For the last time you were already on a mission when I picked the ninja that'll help Mei-san side in the bloodline purge, and Yujito's already going with him. 2 Jinchuriki are more than enough to deal with the Mizukage and the Sanbi, since their other Jinchuriki has left Kiri's forces. He said in a calm but angry tone. But what about my students Amui, Kari, and Amoy? Kyuuubi asked. They will be fine, damn it. You must stay to guard the borders of our country, and that's final. He said with a tick mark on his face and was 5 seconds away from sending Kyuuubi into a mountain. That was when Naruto appeared in the tower and sweat dropped when he saw he ready to beat the crap out of his younger brother. Do I need to come back later? The blonde asked while he let out a sigh. No Naruto, stay. So is the group prepared to head into water country territory? He asked and got a nod from the blonde. Good, and so that you know, you all will be posing as mercenaries that Mei hired to help assist in the war, since the last thing we need is another international incident and tampering with a neutral country's affairs. Do you all have a plan in how to deal with the man's forces? He asked Naruto, who nodded. Thanks to all the knowledge he gained from Madara after he absorbed him from his timeline, Naruto knew all of Kiri's strongholds, security shifts, locations of their backup supplies, and their weak spots. What about the daimyos? Naruto asked. They already know that we're making this attempt and are already planning to start a treaty with us once the rebellion side succeeds. Remember to stay alert out there, Naruto, because the ninja there are masters in stealth and assassination. He said, getting a nod from the blonde. And so am I, he thought. So right now our best bet would be to leave early tomorrow, since their boat patrols are more alert at night than in the daytime. Naruto stated, getting a nod from me, while Kyuuubi sulked in a corner. So what about the issue we had with Konoha? Naruto asked, and the man sighs in frustration. I hate to tell you this, Naruto, but unfortunately Danzo cannot be touched due to all the political influence he has on most of the governing system in Konohagakure, and despite our attempts to get any info out the root Anbu, even with the curse mark removed, he reluctantly died from the interrogation and torture he went through. He said. Those words caused Naruto's eyes to flash red for a few seconds, and he clenches his fists in anger. You mean to tell me that that fucking cripple is gonna get away with sending his drones after my family and live to see another day? He asked in a dangerous tone, getting a reluctant nod from the man. Yes, but I sent a message to the Sandaime and gave him a warning that Konoha were not allowed to enter Kumo territory until further notice, and if any ninja from Konoha were seen anywhere in our country, they'd be killed on the spot, and I also doubled our patrol squads around the borders. He stated. I see, but how does that keep Danzo team in check? Naruto asked, who grinned. To simply put it, Konoha would end up going to war with us, and it would be a war they cannot win, because not only are they still recovering their forces from the Kyuubi's attack, but Kumo happens to have 3 Jinchuriki on their side while they have none. All in all, Yujito, and Kyuuubi will have little to no problem razing that place to the ground. He answered. That may be true, but Danzo's not someone who should be taken lightly. He was one of the few who competed with Hiruzen Sarutobi for the Hokage title, and the man is an opportunist and manipulator. He'll do whatever it takes to get what he wants, no matter what the consequences. Naruto explained. I'll take your word on that. Well, good luck, kid, and please make sure those 4 get back in one piece or Kyuuubi will level half of Kumo to the ground. He stated, since Yujito, Kari, Amoy, and Samui were like family to Kyuuubi, and to harm them in any way, shape, or form would spell death for the person responsible, and a pissed of Kyuuubi was a dangerous Kyuuubi, since the man was the strongest shinobi in the village next to in Kushina. I will, and I'll make sure Kari-chan doesn't kill that laid-back Baka Amoy during the mission. He said jokingly while he chuckles, knowing good and well how those 2 are always at it, and Samui and Yujito would have to be the ones to break it up. Yes, please do. He said while Naruto gives him a mock salute and disappears in a swirl of wind. The next day. Kumo shipping ports. It was midnight near the shipping docks of one of Kumo's ports, and standing near a large cargo ship were Kushina, Naruto, Shinku, Kakashi, Rin, Mei, Anko, and Yugao, along with the Kumo ninja that were gonna aid them, who happened to be Yujito, Kari, Samui, Amoy, and a squad of Anbu that were picked personally by Naruto was currently inspecting his gear, as were the others. Amoy was currently sighing while sucking on a lollipop and pondering on what would happen if this S-ranked mission would fail. Naruto saw the faraway look on Amoy's face and chuckles while making his way towards him. Amoy just kept pondering on the consequences if they were to fail to aid the rebel faction and get caught until he felt a hand on his shoulder. He turned his head to see a smirking Naruto. You know, Amoy pondering on the negative outcomes isn't healthy. he stated, and the young sword user shrugs. I know, but hey, this is my first time going into the unknown territory of a neutral nation and you never know what could happen there, he stated. Carrie sighed in frustration and bopped Amoy on the head. Listen to what Naruto-kun is saying, Amoy. You take things way too seriously. Lighten up for a change. Besides, I can't wait to start kicking ass and taking names, she said as she flexed her arm and grinned. Said sword user looks at her with a bored expression and shrugs once again. Whatever, he said nonchalantly, which made her stumble over, but she caught her footing and growled at her teammate. She slowly raised her fist and swung it at an unaware Amoy until Naruto appeared in between them and caught her fist in his palm. You can pummel the laid-back idiot after our mission, Carrie-chan, Naruto said, smiling at the girl who was now blushing, and pulled her hand away from his and folded her arms across her chest. Fine, she muttered while he chuckled. Hey, Naruto-kun. Hitomi spoke up. Yeah, Hitomi-chan, he asked. How are you gonna handle the Yondaime Mizukage and the Sanbi? I'm pretty sure you and Yujito alone would be capable of handling them both, but do you have a way to beat him without killing him and releasing the overgrown turtle? She asked while Naruto pondered on this and spoke up. Actually, I do. From the knowledge I gained from Madara, he placed a powerful gain jutsu on Yugura and controlled his actions throughout Kiri and having him start the bloodline genocide war, he said with a frown on his face. To be able to control a Jinchuriki who has full control over their bijuu under a Sharingan-influenced gain jutsu is amazing yet terrifying. Madara indeed was a man to be feared. Now I can see why my dad had a tough time facing him in my timeline. Indeed, but since you not only absorbed and gained Madara's and Sasuke's as well as the Jubi's knowledge, powers, eyes, and jutsus, facing the one in this dimension should be a cinch for you since you know what he's planning to do, she stated. Maybe, but it's possible this Madara would be different from the one I fought and will more than likely try to use the bijuu to gain his original strength back, but I can't worry about the Akatsuki yet. My primary concern is this war as well as Orochimaru and Danzo, he said to the vixen who nodded in his mindscape. That was when he felt a hand on his shoulder and looked up to see Kakashi. Are you nervous, Naruto? This is yours and Shinku's first time entering unknown territory and fighting in a war, and this is different from doing a mission since anything could happen, he asked the blonde with a concerned look on his masked face. A little anicky, but I'll manage, he assured the copy nin who nodded his head. Okay, but stay focused because in a few hours we'll be entering a war zone, he stated and left to get all of his gear ready, but a thought ran in his mind. That's really weird. Naruto doesn't seem so worried like Shinku was, and the look in his eyes. Those were the eyes of a shinobi who has fought in countless battles and has taken many lives, but that can't be right. I mean, sure, Naruto has been on missions when he's had to kill, but maybe I'm just seeing things. A while later they all boarded the cargo ship and it set sail towards Kiri. Inside the cargo hold, Naruto was currently sitting on a crate, sharpening his ninjato with a smooth stone, and that was when Yujito walked around the corner and sat next to him. They remained silent for a few minutes until the blonde spoke up. You know Kurabi raised a huge stink over not being able to join in the war, right? He asked while she chuckled and shook her head. Yeah, that sounds like something our overgrown bull-headed sensei would do, especially with Amoy, Carrie, and Samui with us. He's very overprotective of them. So you ready to participate in your first war? She asked the blonde who nodded and sheathed his blade, and that was when she wrapped her arms around him and held him close to her body. Just promise me you and Shinku-chan will be careful out there so that we can come back home in one piece. Naruto sighs and wraps an arm around her waist. I will, Yujito-chan, plus if I end up dying you can just have Nibi bring me back to life and beat the stupidity out of me, he said jokingly, which made her and Nibi chuckle at the thought. All kidding aside, I would be careful, I promise, he said and kissed her on the cheek. Yeah, just like the one where you promised me you wouldn't try to cut through that minefield when that dog got away from you, she replied. Hey, that was the lightning lady's purebred poodle, and if I do remember it was your fault I had to go into that minefield since she bit you on the ass because you smelled like cats, he said, which made her fume. Whatever, you blonde jerk, she said and got off the crate and grabbed Naruto's hand. Come on, we're an hour away from the hidden dock Mei was talking about, she said as she led them out of the cargo hold. Secret docking port. As the ship entered and docked next to the port, the group made their way out of the cargo ship and Mei led them to the secret route that would take them to the rebel camp. As they walked through the path, a small group of Kiri ninja appeared and blocked their path. That was when one of them walked forward. Hold it. Are you allies or enemies? The Mei asked. He was 6'1" and was wearing the Kiri Jounin outfit. He had black spiky hair, reddish-brown eyes, and the lower part of his face was covered in black bandages. Strapped to his back was a large broadsword. From tip to handle, it is approximately 5 to 6 feet long, with a single-edged enormous blade approximately 1 foot wide. It sported a bolted steel base and blade, and there are 2 holes on the blade near the hilt. The base is retconned to having a swirling or winged motif at its base, tinted gold, and the blade is now black, with engraved marks at its base. All in all, the blade was wicked looking. Naruto on the other hand raised an eyebrow when he saw the man. Whoa, this guy looks just like Zabuza. Wonder if they're related in any way? He thought. That was Mei made her way through the group and stepped forward. Hello Shinjin Mamachi. Mei said with a smile on her face while Shinjin's eyes widened in shock. Mei? You're alive. But how? I heard from the group that retreated that you were claimed by the sea after the failed attempt to attack the Mizukage and his naval force. He asked a lava user whose smile grew. I would have had it not been for the children of the late Yondaime Hokage. She stated and motioned for the 2 siblings to step forward, and Shinjin's eyes widened when he saw 2 teenage versions of the Yellow Flash and Red Death. They found me barely alive near the shores of Kumo and have helped me fully recover. She explained, and that was when Kushina stepped forward, which made Shinjin's eyes bug out, as did the other Kiri ninja. It's Kushina Uzumaki, the Red Death. One of the Kiri nin stated as he pointed at her. Kushina on the other hand rubbed the back of her head in embarrassment. Yes, I am the Red Death, and these 2 are my children, and we, along with my students, my late husband's students, and the group of Kumo nin, are here to assist you and the rebels in ending this war. Kushina stated, making the Kirin and gawk and start to whisper to each other. Can you believe it? We've got the Red Death on our side and get to see her in action. One male Kiri nin said. I know. She was the only ninja who could go toe-to-toe with the Yellow Flash, and wait, she had kids with the man who wiped out Iwa's shinobi army in the blink of an eye. A female Kiri nin said. Yeah, the blonde looks just like the Yondaime Hokage. I wonder if he knows the Hiraishin and Rasengan his father created. Another nin asked. Kushina's sweat dropped when she heard all of this and sighs. Great, I've got fan club here just like in Kumo. She muttered while the Kumo nin sweat dropped and the former Leaf nin snicker. Naruto on the other hand was focusing on Shinjin, who raised an eyebrow. What? He asked the blonde, who blinked a few times. By any chance are you related to Zabuza Mamachi? Naruto asked, and the man's eyes widened but then returned to normal. Yeah, I'm related to that idiot. He's my younger brother. Why? He asked the blonde. Well, you both look the same in a sense. He answered while the man chuckled. Yeah, we get that a lot since I'm known as the Devil of the Mist, while he's known as the Demon of the Mist. The only difference is that I'm stronger than him. The baka should have listened to me when I told him not to make an attempt to kill the Yondaime Mizukage yet, but the damn brat was stubborn as hell. If I ever find him, I'm gonna break every damn bone in his body. Shinjin stated with an evil gleam in his eye, which made Naruto's sweat drop. Yeah, you're related to him, alright. Well, it's an honor to be fighting alongside of you. He said as he offered his hand, which the man looked at for a while and at Naruto, but then nodded and shook the blonde's hand. Likewise, and I look forward to seeing the son of the Yellow Flash fight as well. Shinjin stated. After being introduced to the other Kirin nin and the Kumo nin that were assisting them, Shinjin and the Kiri nin led them to the rebel camp. Rebel camp. As the group approached the camp, they noticed that in the camp were a lot of Kirin nin that were ranked as Chunin, Jonin, Anbu, and some were wearing hunter masks, meaning they were Oinin. There were plenty of tents that range from small to large, and the large ones apparently were meant for holding supplies, as well as the refugees that were against the war. There also appeared to be those with bloodlines in the group, and some that Naruto recognized, like a few members of the Kagaya clan, Hyo clan, Kitsueki, Blood clan, This is Ranmaru's clan, and a few others. Most of the clan members consisted of young adults who were tending to the children. That was when Shinjin stopped and looked at the group. Well, Mei, since you're back, let's head to the main tent and inform the temporary leader that you're back. The rest of you can join up, or if you want, look around, but don't wander too far. The Zanbato user said and left with Mei following, and that was when Kushina spoke up. Kakashi, Anko, Yugao, Rin, and Yukumo Anbu are coming with me to meet the leaders of this rebellion. Naruto, Yu, Shinku, Yujito, Karui, Samui, and Amoy can look around. She said, getting a nod from the group while the adults left. So? What should we do now that we're here? Shinku asked the group, and that was when Amoy spoke up. I don't know about you, but I'm just gonna sit under a tree and take a nap. Amoy said as he left with his hands in his pockets, getting a sweat drop from them all. Lazy baka. Karui mumbled but then appeared beside Naruto and wrapped her arms around his arm. Come on Naruto-kun, you and I can look around and spend some time alone. She emphasized alone and had a grin on her face and dragged him off to God knows where. Well said. Blonde blinked a few times and shrugs and walks alongside her, leaving Yujito and Samui glaring hard at Carrie's back. Said dark-skinned female turned her head around and did a victory sign with her hand and grinned cheekily at the two blondes had tick marks on their heads. That bitch. Where does she get off stealing your future mate? Nibi hissed in her mindscape. Yeah, where does she get stealing my weight? What? Nibi, he's not my mate. She yelled at the cat demon with a red face. "Oh please kitten, don't even try to pull that. You two are practically inseparable. You better claim his manhood first before those other girls do," she stated, which made Yujito blush and sputter. But she stammered until Shinku slung her arms around Yujito and Samui's shoulders. "Come on now you two, let's check out the place," she said while the two sigh and follow her. Main tent. Inside the tent were the leaders of the different divisions of the rebellion and were currently discussing a plan in invading Kurigakure, and that was when one of the leaders of the Hunter Nin division heard his name being called. "Ao-san. Ao-san," cried a frantic voice. Ao sighs and sees Shijiro run into the room panting. T.xHarem has short tufty blue hair and dark eyes. He also has pointed, shark-like teeth, traits that all known members of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist, as well as apprentices shared. He wears square, black-rimmed glasses connected to what appear to be headphones, a blue striped shirt, and camouflage-patterned pants that resemble the clothing Zabuza Mamachi wore during his first appearance. Also, he wears his forehead protector on the front of his holster like a badge on his chest. He carries Hiramekure on his back, wrapped with large bandages. He also has a shuriken holder strapped onto each leg. "What is it now, Chijiro? We were in the middle of an important meeting," he said while the blue-haired swordsman manages to regain his breathing and speaks up. "She's back. Mei-sen is back," he said, which made the man's eyes widen. "What do you mean she's back? She drowned during the failed raid on Yagura's personal ship," said a man named Inishi Yukimura, the White Tiger of the Mist. He was 6'1" and had short spiky snow-white hair and wore a long-sleeved white Chinese shirt with matching pants and black boots with an okatana strapped to his waist. That was when the russet-haired woman walked into the tent with a grin on her face. "Oh Inishi, that hurts," she said, and everyone inside the tent's eyes bug out. "And to think I thought we were best friends," she finished with a mock pout on her face. "Mei? But how? We were told you drowned," he asked. "She would have been had it not been for my children," said a feminine voice behind Mei, and Kushina walked in behind her, which caused everyone's eyes to bug out and silence filled the room. "Oh my god, it's the Red Death," shouted Koga, the leader of the tracking and scouting squad. "He looks like the Koga from Inuyasha, only he wears the Kiri shinobi outfit," while the others just gawked. Mei, what is the wife of the Yondai Mei doing here? Isn't she a part of Konoha?" Inishi asked a female Terumi who shook her head. "No, she and her family reside in Kumo and are working as ninja for hire, and they are going to assist us in ending this war. Her children, Naruto Namikaze and Shinku Namikaze, saved me when I washed upon the shores of Kaminari no Kuni, and I stayed with them until I fully recovered. I also asked Arikage for some assistance, and he allowed several of his Anbu and some Chunin and Jounin assist us," Mei explained. "I see. So who are the other ninja that are with you aside from your children, Kushina-sama?" asked a rugged man who was in his 40s and went by the name Benkei. "Please, there is no need for formalities, and as for others, they are Kakashi Hatake, Rinin Yazuka, Anko Mitarashi, and Yugo Yazuki, and they last two are my students, as the other two were former students of my husband," she answered, and the group looked like they were gonna have heart attacks. Those ninja were practically A-ranked in the bingo book, with Kushina being a SS class ranked Kunoichi, whose rep surpassed even Tsu nowadays. "This is too good to be true. Somebody pinch me," Inishi said to himself, but then he yelped and rubbed his arm due to the fact that Kagura Kagaya pinched his arm and had a grin on her face. She was wearing a battle black kimono with a pair of biker shorts and had an adachi strapped to her back. "What he said, pinch him, so I did," she said with a grin on her face while the others' sweat dropped. Meanwhile, Naruto was walking around the village with a dark-skinned Kunoichi holding onto his arm and looked at the sight before them. There appeared to be a lot of medical tents, since outside the tents were medical nin treating those who got injured, and saw plenty of body bags where family members were crying over the loss of their loved ones. Perry couldn't help but be saddened at this. She knew war wasn't pretty since she and Amoy were war orphans due to the fact that their parents were killed in the last one. As they walked around, they heard the sound of someone calling for help and saw two Kirin. One was female and had raven-colored hair and violet eyes, and she was having trouble holding him up due to the fact that he had a couple of kunai and tantos sticking out of his back and his right arm seemed to have second-degree burns. "Akira, hang in there, we're almost at the medical ward," she said as she tried to hoist him up on her shoulders. "You should have left me there, Kuroko-chan," Akira stated and grunted in pain. "Shut up. I don't want to hear you talking like that, now stay awake, Yubaka," she said, and then turned her head to see a male blonde teenage run up to them and a dark-skinned female teenager walk up to them, as well as a small group of medical nin. "Oh, thank Kami," she said. "Dear, let us help you get him to a tent," Naruto offered, and he and Kari carefully placed Akira's arms over his shoulders and Kuroko smiled tiredly as she let Kari take over. "Thank you," she said as she held her bleeding arm, while one of the medic nin walked over and helped heal her arm, while the others led Naruto and Kari to one of the medical tents. A few hours later Naruto, Kari, and Kuroko were sitting outside the medical ward while said Kiri Kunoichi had a bandaged arm and a few patches on her face. A medical nin walked out of the tent and wiped a bead of sweat off his forehead. "How is he?" Kuroko asked the man who sighs but a small smile forms on his face. "He'll be fine. He just needs to stay off his feet for a few weeks. Luckily none of those weapons hit his vital organs." The med nin said while Kokoro let out a sigh of relief. "Oh thank Kami," she said to herself. Naruto then sat up, which made Kari raise an eyebrow in confusion. "Come on Kari-chan. We need to head back," he said, which made her nod and get up. Night. The 6 leaders of the rebel forces along with their platoons of ninja were standing on a hilltop. Naruto was standing beside Kakashi and Anko, who were in their war gear, and standing in the middle of the leaders was Mei Terumi, who was in her war gear and had her blade Keenheim, Blaze Princess, strapped to her back, Nero's blade Red Queen from DMC4. "Listen up everyone," she called out, getting the attention of the other ninja. "I am gonna be honest with you all. Tomorrow is not promised to us, and we'll more than likely die in this final attempt to free our home and country from the darkness that has plagued it since the Yondaime Mizukage started the bloodline purge. All I ask from you is to look out for one another, and should you fall, take as many of our enemies as you can with you until you breathe your last breath. Tonight will be the fall of the bloody mist and the rise of a new era for us and the next generation," she said and raised her fist in the air for Kiri. She cried out. Inishi raised his fist in the air. For Kiri. NK did the same as his fellow comrades. For Kiri. As did Kagura Kagaya. For Kiri. And Koga Kurokami, Black Wolf, did the same as well. For Kiri. And finally Ao. For Kiri. Shin Mamachi stood forwards and drew his Zabuto and raised it in the air. For Kiri. He shouted, which was responded by the other Kiri-nin, let out a battle cry that echoed throughout the forest. Izukage Tower. Iguro was currently wearing his Kage robes with a hat overshadowing his eyes with his Anbu flanking him. "Cry out all you want, you fools. You are merely delaying the inevitable," he said in a deep tone. A few hours later. The sound of metal clashing against metal, battle cries, and flames burning echoed throughout Kurigakure no Sado, and apparently the rebel side was advancing due to them attacking the less guarded areas instead of the main gate. They also managed to cut off their backup supplies and some of the communication towers. Right now Naruto and Kisashi were taking down Chunin-ranked Kiri-nin left and right. Said blonde ducked when a broadsword whizzed past his head, taking off a few strands, and delivered a chakra-enhanced punch to the man's gut and sent him flying into a concrete wall. That was when a chain ensnared his arm and saw 5 Kiri ascend towards him, with their kunai and blades drawn, ready to skewer him. Naruto closes his eyes for a few seconds, and they snap open, revealing his Sharingan. "Chidori Nagashi, Thousand Bird Current," he said quietly, and a powerful electronic discharge erupts from every part of his body which electrocutes the Kiri-nin and makes them cry out in sheer agony due to having volts of electricity course through their body. They collapse onto the ground twitching in pain while the current continues to surge around the blonde. Kakashi just knocked out a Jonin-ranked nin with a chop to the back of the neck and turns his head sideways to see Naruto, and his eyes widened at what he saw, especially when he saw the Sharingan in the blonde eyes. The copy nin shook his head and turned his attention toward a small group of charging Kiri ninja heading right from him. "I must be dreaming because I just saw Naruto have the Sharingan, but that's insane. The battle must be getting to me." He then pulls out his ninjato and sprints towards the other group. Naruto turned his head to see a group of bloodline users be cornered by a squad of Anbu who were performing hand seals, and several water dragons descended towards them. Naruto did in few hand seals and slammed his hands on the ground. "Doten. Kaudo Toride, Earth Release. Earth Fortress," he called out. Before the dragons had a chance to engulf the bloodline users, 3 large walls of earth rose up in front of them and protected them from the water jutsu, much to the Anbu's shock. "What the who did the first?" Anbu asked while Naruto phased behind them by rising from the ground like Madara did when he fought Fu and Torn. One Anbu snaps out of his stupor and swings his ninjato at Naruto's head, only for it to phase through, and the blonde smirks as he grabs them both, creates a vortex that sucks in 4 of the Anbu, and the rest charge at Naruto, and said blonde does the same, but pulls out a long chain that is connected to 2 bracelets that are attached to his wrists. The Anbu make an attempt to run their blades through him, but like last time, they along with the blades phased through the blonde and afterwards, twisted his body in order to ensnare them in the chain, and sent surges of electricity through the chains which electrocute the Anbu, who also collapsed on the ground twitching. Naruto removes the braces and smirks at the bloodline holders who nod back and shunshin to join their comrades. He then leaps on top of a building, only to see a large blue two-tailed feline roaring and slamming her paw onto the ground and sending the Kirin that were fighting the rebels flying. "Well, it looks like Kitty Cat has that section under control," he says, and then performs a series of hand seals and places his hand on the ground. A puff of smoke appeared beside him, and standing before him was none other than Hitomi. "Well, it's about time you summoned me," she said while folding her arms under her bosoms while Naruto smirks. "I hope you have a way in making this up to me." Naruto points to the battle going on, and a toothy grin forms on her face. "That'll work," she said while rubbing her hands together. "Try to keep the casualties to a minimum, Hitomi-chan, since my family and friends are down there also," he instructed. She nodded back, gave him a mock salute and vanished in a flash of red. That was when an explosion occurred at the Mizukage Tower, which got the blonde's attention. "Better go help out whoever caused that against the overgrown Kame, turtle," he thought, and once again used Madara's Jikiken ninjutsu to warp away. But the others? Anko had just dropped Kikajonin in the back of his head and afterwards reared her fist back. "Sane Tajashu, many hidden shadow snake hands," she cried out, and a swarm of big snakes shot out of the sleeve of her trench coat in an instant, constricting and biting any Anbunin that were in her path. After she called them back, she saw Shinjin slam 2 Kirin into the concrete and pull out his buster blade and swat 3 Chunin away like flies with the blunt end of his blade. Anko appeared beside him and deflected a volley of shuriken. "You know, since this battle started I haven't seen you actually use that blade," she stated while the man smirks under his mask. "That's because use brings about wear, tear and rust, and this beauty's repairs are expensive. Besides, only those who are strong in my eyes are worthy enough to fall to my blade," he said as he performed a series of hand seals. Suiten. Sukendan no Jutsu, water release. Water shark missile technique. Water rose from a large water fountain and formed into a shark with a head nearly at the same height as a man, and it moves to attack a squad of enemy nin at high speed and hits them with a powerful impact that sends water everywhere. "Nice. My turn," she said, and did a quick series of hand seals. Doten. Dehebiden, earth release. Earth snake bullet. The earth in front of her softened and the mud formed into a serpent made of mud that rose from the ground and hissed as it ascended towards a group of Chunin. Shinjin whistled as he had a Jonin in a headlock. "Not bad," he said, and snapped the Jonin's neck, killing him instantly. Yugao and Kushina were synchronized in their swords play and were simultaneously switching from offense to defense whenever they faced a Kirin. Shinku was evading some kunai swipes from 2 Chunin who had their broadswords out, and then she leaned backwards as their broadsword swung over her head. They attempted to make another attempt only for Kagura to appear and block them with 2 single-edge ivory katanas, surprising them. Amoy appeared above them and brought his katanas out in a reversed position. Kumorik. Mikazuki Kiri, cloud style. Crescent moon beheading. Amoy swings his blade in a clockwise arc and strikes them in the back, which caused them to cry out in pain and fall to the ground. Amoy stops the technique and then reverse the blade sides when he senses 3 nin behind them. Kumorik. Uragiri, cloud style reverse beheading. He does a reversal swinging arc and slits their throats instantly. "Not bad, kid. Those were some sweet moves," Kagura said with a smirk on her face while Amoy shrugs. "Thanks, but it's no big deal really," he stated while the Kagaya chuckles. "Skilled and humble, you're alright in my book," she said while Shinku got up and vanished in a blur, striking down several ninja using the Shukichiki. Sujiro said his technique with her katana and reappears with it drawn out but sheathes it once again. "I hope Nai-san is doing okay," she said to herself, and goes to help. Rinwao was treating the injured while a group of Cloud Anbu were protecting the injured. Mizukage Tower. Mei was the first to leap out of the smoke and land on the rooftop, skidding backwards with Kenham drawn. Inishi was the next one to land next to her, but with the left sleeve of his jacket torn off. The snow-haired swordsman growled in frustration and ripped the jacket off, wearing a sleeveless black muscle shirt underneath it. "Inishi, are you okay?" Mei asked her childhood friend, who nodded. "Yeah, I'm good. Damn team tried to blow my arm off," he said with a scowl on his face. That was when Yugura in his Kage robes appeared with a blank expression on his face. "Don't assume that just because you planned a surprise attack on me doesn't mean you'll win, or have you forgotten about our encounter a while back, mate Terumi?" the man asked, which made the girl scowl. "Yugura, do you realize what your actions have done to our village? Our country? How many lives were destroyed? Why are you doing this? What happened to make you change and become a tyrant?" she asked a Jinchuriki, who remained unemotional. "What I have done is purge our land of these accursed bloodlines, and I intend to carry on my ideals in purging this world of the very thing that starts wars and causes destruction, and anyone who disagrees with my ideals are traitors and deserve to die," he replied, which made the two clench their fists in anger. "Is that so?" said a voice behind Mei and Inishi, and the two turned their heads and see Naruto walking towards them, with the difference being that he had the Sharingan activated and had what appeared to be a guardless katana that had a black hilt with white diamond patterns on it drawn. Inishi's and Mei's eyes widened when they saw this taijutsu. Sharingan? Inishi asks himself. Agura on the other hand narrows his eyes. Great, another ninja has violated the soil of my country with his vile blood. He said darkly while Naruto keeps his expression calm and sharp. This coming from a Kage who's the vessel for an overgrown turtle. He said, which made the man's eyes widen a little. I believe you contain the Sanbi no Kaidagam, three-tailed giant turtle, correct? How did you know? Unless you're a vessel too. Yugura asked, and his answer was Naruto with a smile on his face. You can say that, but sadly I don't have the time to explain it to you. After all, 3 is no match for 10. He replied, which made the others' eyes widen, especially Mei, because she believed that he was the vessel for the Kyuuubi no Yoko and wondered why he said 10-tailed because she thought that there were only 9 bijuu. Don't patronize me, fool. There is no 10-tailed bijuu. The Mizukage said and then threw off his hat and robes. Yugura has unkempt gray hair, pink eyes, and what seems to be a stitch-like scar running from under his left eye all the way down his cheek. He has a dull expression and wears a grey undershirt with short mesh sleeves, which has a metal plate of a Kurigakure forehead protector sewn onto it. He also wears a long green scarf around his neck, a turquoise sash around his waist, paired with a green ninjamenta that hangs on his legs, and black pants. He's one of the few ninjas to not wear sandals, instead relying on a pair of brown boots opened on the back. On his back he carries a staff-like pole weapon with uneven hooks with a green flower on the end of the larger hook. Naruto on the other hand chuckles and releases a burst of Kai that surprises Yugura, who felt a murderous intent, and for some reason, he saw what looked like the image of a beast with 10 tails and had an eye with 9 tomos around 4 concentric rings. Dark blue chakra slowly forms around Naruto and flows off of him like fire, and the tiles underneath him cracked and started to spread out. Inishi and Mei were amazed when they felt the chakra emitting from Naruto's body. Incredible. The chakra emitting from his body is so powerful, and this isn't even the bijuu's chakra. It's all him. The white tiger of the misthought. Don't think so highly of yourself, boy. You are strong, but you are no match for a Kage. He stated. Mei-san and Inishi-san. Naruto said quietly, getting their attention. Yugura is being controlled by a powerful genjutsu. He stated, which made their eyes widen. Are you sure? Mei asked and Naruto nodded. Yes. My eyes can see it and whoever is doing it can use it even when he's not in the area. To pull a stunt like that requires someone who is beyond the level of a Kage. He answered. So what should we do? Inishi asked. Our only option is to weaken him enough to sever the connection between him and his bijuu and then break the genjutsu. Naruto finished while Inishi scoffs and draws his Itachi, the blade Inishi used in Rurouni Kenshin, Hoedo Tora, White Tiger. Easier said than done, kid. Yugura has full control over his bijuu and its power. He stated while Naruto grinned. And so do I. In a sense, because I am in a way the new Kyuuubi. He said and thought to himself. Yugura pulls his staff off his back, twirls it a few times, and goes into a bijutsu stance. Naruto twirls his blade a few times and places it in a reversal grip, while Inishi goes into a watajutsu stance, and Mei twists the hilt of her blade, making it ignite into a flaming blade. Listen, should he morph into his chakra cloak or bijuu form, I want you to let me handle it. He said, getting side glances from them. Are you sure? Inishi asked the blonde, who nodded. Well, his Sharingan started to spin rapidly. Okay then, just be careful. Yugura is highly skilled in using water jutsu, and I'm talking about Nidaime level. He answered. That was when Naruto pulled a kunai out and chucked it at high speed. Kunai Kage Bushin no Jutsu, Shadow Kunai Clone Technique. Naruto said as he performed a series of hand seals. There were now round over 100 kunai ascending towards Yugura, who started to twirl his hook staff around clockwise in front of himself and deflect the kunais. Inishi took this opportunity to sprint around Yugura and aimed when he got close enough, aimed for his side, and swung his blade. Yugura manages to deflect all the blades and then BLCKS an upward slash delivered by Inishi, who smirked. Poor form of defense, Mizukage. He taunted. Shugeki Tensei, kicking sword rush. Inishi kicks the back edge of his blade to increase the speed and force of the strike when he swings his watam upward. The force from the kick was so powerful that it forced Yugura's staff back and in the air, leaving him open for an attack. Mei appears with her blade blazing and swings it at his torso. Hamuradama, burning soul. She cried out and swung at him diagonally, leaving a blazing trail of fire, while the hit slashed a shocked Yugura across the chest and torso, only he bursts into water. Shitamizu Bunshin. She cursed and then had to duck to avoid being impaled by the small hook on the end of the Kage's staff and leaps away. Inishi leaps into the air with his blade in a reversal position and seemed to be channeling wind chakra into the blade. Shiraitu, white sickle. He swings his blade twice, releasing 2 white crescent blades made of wind. Yugura leaps away and senses Naruto behind him and blocks a downward slash with his staff, and the blonde smirks. Todori Nagashi, thousand bird current. Electricity erupts from the blonde's body and zaps Yugura, who grunts in pain and is slightly paralyzed from the attack. Inishi took this opportunity to strike the man in the chest with a powerful palm strike that makes Yugura cough up saliva, and Mei appears and kicks him in the chin, sending him flying high into the air. Naruto appears behind him while in the air. Kage Bio, leaf shadow dance. He said quietly while Yugura's eyes widened as black bandages instantly wraps around his body and ensnares him in a cocoon-like state. Naruto grabs the man and starts to slowly rotate until they started to spin rapidly at incredible speed and descend towards the ground. Amit Renj, initial lotus. The blonde called out and he pile drives the Mizukage into the rooftop head first, making the place shake slightly and cause dust to rise up into the air. Naruto leaps out of the dust and in between the 2 leaders of the rebel faction and frowns. Stay on your toes because this is far from over. Naruto said as the dust cleared and revealed the broken body of Yugura and it melts into water. They heard a boot slam on a roof tile and turn their heads to see Yugura glaring at them. I have to say you 3 are impressive, especially you boy. But even though you outnumber me, you don't outmatch me. He said as he performed a series of hand seals. Suiten. Sushma, water release. Water shockwave. Yugura creates a spiraling vortex of water from the moisture in the air, and the vortex then proceeds to explode from the top in the form of a wave that descended to the 3. Naruto does a small series of hand seals and slams his palms onto the wall. Doten. Doryuheki. A large wide wall of earth appeared in front of the trio and stopped the impact of the wave which shook the tower, and the remaining water dripped down the roof. Inishi took this opportunity to scale the wall until he reached the top while Mei ran around the earth wall doing a series of hand seals. Yoten. Yagen Nami. Her cheeks bulged and she spat out torrents of hot magma that covered up the entire roof and kept Yugura in his place, but said Mizukage scoffs and fires a torrent of water from his mouth which hit the magma and cooled it off as steam rose into the air. You little lave trick won't save you, Mei Teru. He didn't get to finish due to the fact that he hissed out in pain when he saw the skin on his arm peel away as the steam hit his skin. Have you forgotten about my second Kekkei Genkai, you fool? Mei taunted as she did a horse seal and sucked air into her mouth. Fun. Kumu no Jutsu, boil release. Skilled mist technique. Released a corrosive acid-like mist from her mouth which ascends and engulfs Yugura. Did she get him? Inishi asked himself, and his answer was a bluish-gray ethereal chakra hand launching itself at the earth wall and strikes it, demolishing said wall, which caused Inishi to fall of the crumbling wall and descend towards the jagged rocks, or would have had his falling body not have been stopped by a human-sized cushion of sand. What the? He asked himself. Another one shot out of the mist and ascended towards a shocked Mei, who had little time to escape it until a wall of what appeared to be sand rose in front of her and it deflected the chakra hand. Mei blinks in shock when she sees this. Sand. But how? Mei asked herself and saw Inishi ascend towards the ground on a sand cushion that landed him down safely. Said sand dissipated and they watched as it ascended towards the Naruto, who had a large gourd that swallowed up the sand. Stay focused. That acid mist Mei-san conjured up only pissed him off. Naruto said while a tick mark appeared on Inishi's head. No really? Inishi asked as a vein throbbed on his head. Inishi calmed down. Mei replied while the man snorts but tilts his round shades up. He gourd Naruto had was sealed up in one of the small scrolls he had, and the Yugura walked out of the mist with a dangerous look in his eye. I guess playtime's over, huh? Good. Naruto unsheathes his blade and has it in a reverse grip. Cause I'm about to show you what this kid can do. He said and charges at Yugura, who gets into a bijutsu stance, and said blonde vanishes and appears behind Yugura, swinging his blade diagonally at the man's back. Yugura spins his body and his staff clashes against Naruto's katana, and the two were in a power struggle. Naruto smirks while Yugura's eyes widen when a Kage Bunshin appeared behind him, ready to run him through with its katana, but he presses a switch and the hook on the end of his staff fired and struck the clone, making it dispel. Naruto took this opportunity to grab his shoulder, plants his foot on the staff and uses it as a spring and struck Yugura in the chin with his knee. Said blonde twists his body around, lands back on the ground. Yugura spins his body around and swings the end that had the hook connected to a chain and it wraps around Naruto's arm. Said blonde channels the Chidori through his blade and cuts it down. Yugura scowls when this happened while Inishi appeared over him with his blade raised in the air. Shmatmsei, destructive palm sword rush. Inishi uses his palm to push the Wado and performs a downward strike, which Yugura managed to block, but the speed and force from the attack causes a crater to form underneath the Jinchuriki. Mei on the other hand took this opportunity to slide under the man and break his balance with a slide kick, making the man stumble over, while Inishi performs a roundhouse kick and strikes Yugura in the jaw with the heel of his boot and sent the man flying, and Yugura crashes to the ground. He shakes the cobwebs out of his head only to hear the sound of birds chirping, and he looks up to see Naruto descending towards him with his left arm reared back and covered in white electricity. "Chidori, 1,000 birds." He called out and swung his arm at Yugura's chest, but the Kage vanishes while Naruto slams his lightning-covered hand into the spot that the man was currently at and curses when he appears again with his staff raised and ready to drive the large hook into his skull, only for Inishi to appear and stop the hook with the sharp edge of his blade, but used one hand and had his right hand reared back. Into a palm strike. He swings it forward and strikes the man in the torso, making Yugura grit his teeth in pain. "I'm not done yet. Futen. K's Shushu, wind release. Wind palm." Yugura is sent flying backwards and was sent flying off the roof and into a building, causing an explosion to occur. Naruto manages to free his arm and stands back up. "Thanks," he said, getting a smirk from Th white-haired man. "Don't mention it. So how is it that you have the Sharingan and was able to manipulate sand like that? Last I heard, the Uchiha clan was nearly wiped out by one that went rogue," he asked. "That will be explained in due time, but for now." Naruto closed his eyes, and his eyes morphed into the eternal Manjikyu Sharingan. "We have an extremely pissed off Jinchuriki Kage to deal with," he said while an explosion erupted from the building Yugura crashed into, and standing in the rubble was Yugura in a three-tailed clock form, similar to Naruto's four-tailed stated, and was snarling at the trio for a few seconds, but then released a bestial roar that echoed throughout the village. Yugura the opened his mouth and gathers both positive black chakra Purasu no Kurochakura and negative white chakra Minasu no Shirochakura, shaped it into a sphere, swallows it, and then compress it inside his mouth. Naruto's eyes widened when he saw this. "Shit. Inishi. Mei. Grab my arms." Naruto screamed, which surprised them. But why? Inishi asked, only for Naruto to grab his and Mei's arm as Yugura fired the menacing ball at the three that ascended towards them at high speeds. A large explosion rocks the village, and mushroom-shaped smoke appeared in the sky. When it cleared, the tower was reduced to rubble, and the three could be seen nowhere in sight. The trio crashed into the ground away from Yugura, and the blonde let out a sigh of relief. "That was too close," he said to himself while the two got up and the blonde stand up. "That was a Jikiken ninjutsu he used. Does he know how to use his father's technique? But I didn't see him throw a kunai or use a formula jutsu," Inishi thought. "Looks like I've got no other choice," he said and looks at Mei and Inishi. "I have to take on Yugura personally," he stated and looked at them. "Are you capable of using your bijuu's power at its fullest, Naruto?" Mei asked and got a nod from the blonde. "Yeah, my sensei Kurabi took me to a temple where I could learn how to use my bijuu's chakra and powers at its fullest, but I can't use it fully if you're around cause I don't want you to get caught in the crossfire," he said as the two looked conflicted but hesitantly nod. "Fine, we'll keep our distance, but be careful, Naruto-kun," Mei said, getting a smile from the blonde. "I will. I'm gonna lead him away from the village and near the shores since no civilians will be around the area," he said and warps away again. Said blonde once again appears at the wreck site with Yugura, who was in his beast form, looking around for them and growling lowly. "Hey Yugura," Naruto called out, getting the man's attention, and saw the blonde flipped him off while giving him a raspberry. "I've seen academy students with better aim. Are you positive you're a Kage?" He taunted out and knew that since the Sanbi was more animal-like and lacked intelligence, he knew the man would get irritated in an instant. Said vessel snarls out in anger and lunges at the blonde, who warped away, while said bijuu crashed to the ground, leaving a large crater. Naruto appeared standing on a destroyed rooftop, crouching down. "Wow, now that was scary. I thought you said you had control over the shell head's power, Yagura-chan." He drawled out and leapt away when an extended chakra tendril tried to grab him. Yugura leapt out of the crater and saw the blonde running towards the outskirts of the village, with Yugura going after him. "That's right, shell for brains, follow the leader," Naruto thought as he increased the pace. Open field. Naruto landed on an open field that was surrounded by a few mountains and was near the shoreline waiting for Yugura to arrive, and then he smirks when the man in his Jinchuriki form landed in the clearing, loudly making the ground shake. "Foolish boy. Did you honestly think you could get away from me?" Yugura snarled out while Naruto's smirk turned into a feral grin. "Where did you get the idea that I was running from you, team? Now that we're away from the battleground I can deal with you and not have to hold back," he said as his canines turned into fangs, and while a yellow golden chakra cloak with 10 tails surrounded his body and the pupil in his EMS turned into a slit and his skin started to slowly peel off. Yugura's wide eyes widened in disbelief as he saw this. Surprised. "I told you that I wasn't kidding when I said I possessed a 10-tailed beast in my body, and now you're gonna see firsthand what I'm capable of," he said as an animalistic snarl escaped from his lips while his eyes glowed red while a yellow dome formed around his body. Said blonde dropped on all fours while his fingernails and toenails extended and formed into claws. He then bowed his head for a few seconds and let out a bestial roar which caused a powerful shockwave to be released and the dome shot up and formed into a pillar of yellow light. Back in Kiri. Ujito released a tailed beast sonic roar that sent a squad of Jonin flying into some rubble and was about to move forward but then stopped and looked up to see a pillar of yellow light. Samui has cut down a Chunin and saw Ujito looking at the pillar of light. "Ujito, what is it?" she asked. "It's Naruto-kun. Whoever he's fighting is making him use his bijuu powers, but the odd thing is it isn't Kyuuubi's from what Nico's telling me and says that it's something more powerful than the fox," she stated, which made her eyes widened. "She's right, you know," said another feminine voice. They turned their heads to see a red head with red slit eyes. Hitomi looked up at Ujito's form and grinned. "Hey kitty cat, how's life treating you?" said Nekomata's eyes widened and Nibi switched with Ujito for a second. "Hitomi? How did you get out of your vessel?" she asked, which came close to shouting while the vixen just chuckled. "Oh, that is a long story," she stated while Samui's eyes bugged out. Ishina was helping an injured Koga to one of the infirmaries but then she paused and looked at a pillar of chakra. "Sachi, I hope you're not doing anything reckless," she said to herself. Back with Naruto and Yugura. As the light pillar ended, Naruto was in the version 2 bijuu form, Kurabi's and Naruto's form, with a mixture of solid yellow and black chakra covering his body. His appearance was in the form of a humanoid wolf with 10 tails flailing behind it. Had black surrounding his face and his eyes glowed red and it snarled lowly at a shocked and stunned Yugura. Naruto took a step forward and his footsteps sounded like thunderclaps and flexed his clawed hands. He suddenly vanished in a flash of yellow and the next thing Yugura knew a hand wrapped around his face and was slammed into the ground, creating a large and wide crater. Naruto let out a roar and flung Yugura into the side of a mountain and a portion of it collapsed on top of him. That was when a fast and powerful stream of water shot towards Naruto. Said blonde snarled and stopped the attack with just one hand and it only made him skid back a few inches. When it stopped, ethereal chakra arms shot out and grabbed Naruto's arms and the young Namikaze growled and used 2 of his tails to sever them and make the stumps retract and flung them off and fired a series of menacing balls at Yugura's current location, which resulted in multiple explosions occurring. Yugura managed to leap out of the explosion only for Naruto to appear with his fist beat back. He let out a primal roar and slugged the miniature Sanbi in the face full force and sent him descending towards the ground at high speed, which resulted in the ground exploding and Yugura went skidding through the forest, across the sand and finally entering the ocean shores and crashing in the water, creating a powerful tidal wave. Naruto landed back onto the ground and let out a victory roar. Before he glowed and morphed back into his normal state, panting a little. "I guess my current body wasn't capable of handling that much of the Kyuuubi's power yet," he said to himself as he saw an enormous crater connected to a deep ditch-like trail that left a path of destruction through the forest. "I went a little overboard. Oh well," he said and once again warped away and appeared on a rock near the ocean shores. Come out wherever you are," he said quietly and saw bubbles near the open ocean and then he grinned. "Looks like shell for brains isn't done yet," the blonde thought as the bubbles grew and grew until the water started to slowly rise and revealed the true form of the Sanbi Kyuuubi. Naruto stood quietly on a rock as he stared at the Sanbi no Kyuuubi, 3-tailed giant turtle, while water dripped down the beast's body. The 3 tails primarily resembles a turtle, but with a crab-like shell and 3 shrimp-like tails. It has a pair of human arms and hands, but no hind legs. Its right eye is constantly closed, indicating some sort of injury, and because of this, it is particularly vulnerable to attacks directed at its right eye. "I can't say that this form is an improvement since you look like something Ujito-chan threw up from eating bad shellfish," the blonde taunted and said. Bijuu snarled angrily at being insulted. "You puny insect. Even now that I reveal my true form to you, you still mock me. I'll make sure that you suffer for this and will be the prime example of those who go against me will die." Yugura growled out and unleashed a roar so powerful that the shockwave split the water and sent sand flying in different directions. Naruto hair swayed back from the roar but remained on the rock he was standing on until it died down. "Phew dude, you need to lay off the fish. There's a new invention that was made and I believe it is called a mint," Naruto replied and for emphasis waved his hand in front of his face in a disgusted manner. Yugura growled and raised his large hand into the air and over Naruto's form and brought it down fast and hard and when it landed, it caused the earth to shake violently. Yugura raised his enlarged hand in order to see the smear that he made but only saw his imprint. The Sanbi growled and looked around for its prey. Naruto was sitting on the beast's head with his right hand covered in lightning chakra and it was light blue. Raiden. Jakito Ikezuchi, lightning releases. Raging thunder. Powerful volts of electricity shot around Yugura's Sanbi body, causing the Jinchuriki to howl out in agony as countless volts of electricity hit every single part of its body simultaneously. After the technique ended, Naruto leapt off the beast's head and landed in front of the beast, who snarls and sweeps at Naruto, who simply phases through the arm, and then the water hybrid attempted to backhand him, only for Naruto simply stop the beast's arm with one hand. Such a mindless beast you are, Yugura-chan. Naruto chastised and grabs a hold of one of its large fingers and slowly lifts it out of the water. Someone should teach you some manners. He then tosses him over his shoulder and slams him into the sandy rocky shores, sending waves of sand and pieces of rocks everywhere. Let's take this fight somewhere less wet. Naruto suggests as her activated his eternal Manjikyu Sharingan. Kamui, might of the gods. The area around them ripples and Yugura is sucked into a void instantly and the ripples end. Naruto warps away afterwards. A few seconds later a ripple appears around some village ruins that were caused by the civil war and a vortex appears. Coming down from it was none other than Yugura in Sanbi form and came crashing down into the village heart. Naruto appeared on top of a destroyed building with his eternal Manjikyu Sharingan. There. This will do. He's out of his element and there are no people around. The Sanbi gets back on its feet and snarls as it looks around for Naruto. Said lets out a loud whistle. Yugura turns his head to see Naruto grinning and flipping him off and said transformed Mizukage growls and picks up a large boulder. Naruto ends his charade and starts to get serious. His chakra flares and morphs into a yellow layer of what appeared to be cloaked armor with lightning static coursing around it. I gotta remind myself to thank Ii-sensei for teaching me this technique. He said to himself as the Raiden no Yoroi, lightning release armor, flared up causing his hair to spike up as well, similar to how Ii spiked up when he fought Sasuke. The Sanbi roars and chucks the boulder at Naruto. Said blonde reared his fist back and let out a battle cry as he swung his fist forward and smashed the boulder to pieces. The Sanbi then grabbed a large building and chucked it at Naruto who vanished, while the building smashed the location Naruto was at and appeared over Yugura's form, with his right leg raised. Jurichin Darapu, guillotine drop. Naruto cried out performs a downward kick on his opponent. The heel of his foot slams down onto the water hybrid's skull and sent him crashing into the ground and creating a 20-foot wide crater that causes dust and debris to fly in different directions. Naruto lands in front of the downed bijuu with his armor still active until a large grey hand shot out and attempted to grab Naruto, but the blonde to cut off 3 of its fingers, causing the beast to howl in pain. And he leaps into the air. Pain. Kiryu fire release. Dragon flame missile. He unleashes a stream of white-hot fire that hits the Sanbi hard, making the beast roar in anger as his skin was scorched by the hot flames. After it ended Naruto landed behind one of the tails and dodged the one that tried to squash him and then the other attempted to, but he leapt into the air doing aerial somersault and then slammed his chakra-enhanced fist into the beast's shell, causing it to crack. Yugura was getting frustrated and unleashed a roar so powerful that it sent a shock wave around the entire area and destroyed everything around it. Naruto was sent flying off its back and crashing through 3 wrecked buildings, but he flips backwards and lands back on his feet, skidding backwards and shaking the cobwebs out of his head. Okay, now he's pissed. He stated and leapt on top of a destroyed rooftop and saw Yugura's bijuu form with its head raised and was gathering positive black chakra, Purasu no Kurochakura, and negative white chakra, Minasu no Shirochakura, shape it into a sphere and then compress it inside its mouth. Naruto's eyes widened when he saw the compressed chakra get bigger and bigger. Is he nuts? That Amari, menacing ball, has enough power behind it to level a quarter of water country. He said as the ball became larger. But the rebel faction. The Gurukugaya had just run a Kiri Anbu through with her bone blade and kicked him off the building and sensed something powerful. She turned her head and her eyes widened in disbelief when she saw a large sphere made of energy. Oh Kami, no he wouldn't. She said in horror while Benkei landed beside her. The Guru we managed to gain control of the eastern sector of. He saw the horrified look on her face and wondered what she was looking at until his expression became similar to her. No, that attack it's. Mei, Inishi, and the others also saw the menacing ball and couldn't believe what Yugura was about to do. No Yugura, don't do it. Mei begged. Yujito too was shocked by the size of the ball. That menacing ball is too unstable. If he completes it, half of water country will become a charred barren wasteland. The vessel for Nibi stated while the other ninja, both rebel and enemy, each had horrified looks on their face. No, the Mizukage wouldn't, one Kiri Jonin stated. Hitomi cursed and sped off, heading to where Naruto and Yugura were, as did the other leaders and Naruto's family. The ground around Yugura's beast form started to tremble and debris started to slowly rise from the power emitting from the ball of compressed energy. Naruto's train of thought was running a mile a minute. Damn it, how do I stop that? If I hit him and he drops that attack, this place will become a giant crater, but if his fires it, half of water country will be destroyed and there's no way I'm using the Kuchius. Yataikuzashi no Jutsu, summoning. Food cart destroyer technique. Come on Naruto, think, damn it, think. He said to himself until the idea flashed in his head. Got it. He then pulls out a tri-pronged kunai that had a black seal tag with white seal formulas on it. I just hope I got this down all the way. He prayed. The leaders as well as their allies made it to the ruins and they saw Sanbi roar as the energy ball was now twice as big as it was. Hey, is that Naruto? Anko asked as she saw the blonde. Kushina's eyes widened in fear as she saw her son not moving away from the attack. What is he doing? Aniki, get out of there. Shinku said to herself. I Namikaze. Sanbi Amari, three-tailed menacing ball. Yugura roared and fired the chakra blast. Everyone hit the ground. Mei screamed and they each got down. The menacing ball made its way towards Naruto, making debris scattered due to its speed and velocity. Not gonna happen. Naruto said as he went through a series of fast-paced hand seals with a tri-pronged kunai in his hand. As it got closer and was about to hit the blonde, it appeared to get absorbed into what appeared to be a barrier with kanji seals stretching outwards and sucking the attack in. What? Impossible. That was my strongest attack. Yugura roared in disbelief and anger as his menacing ball was now completely gone and saw that Naruto held a Hiraishin kunai in both hands. Mei was the first to look up and saw nothing happened aside from the large trenches in the ground and saw Naruto was completely unharmed. The other ninja looked up and their eyes bugged when they saw nothing. What the? How did he? The Nishi asked only to hear an explosion occur and they looked back to see a light blue dome form on top of the ocean and saw large waves crashing into the rocky cliffs and the ground tremble. How did he do that? Yugao wondered while Kakashi remained silent. That was a Jikuken Kekkai ninjutsu, space-time barrier technique, and it was similar to Minato sensei's. When did Naruto learn how to do Jikuken jutsu? And that time I saw his eyes changed. He thought as he narrowed his eyes and then they widened in disbelief at what he saw. Both of Naruto's eyes were similar to the Manjikyu Sharingan. So he did have the Sharingan and the Manjikyu form no less. How did he gain them? Bigura's bestial form let out a roar of frustration and lunged at Naruto, who remained in his position and calm. What's he doing? He'll get crushed. Kagura stated. Naruto, get out of there. Kari cried as the Sanbi beeped its fist back and roared while swinging it forward only for a golden ethereal skeletal hand to stop the fist. What the? Yugura said in disbelief. This has gone on for too long. Naruto said in a calm yet cold tone. A flaming chakra with a red outline flared around his body and grew until a skeletal figure manifested around Naruto. I never thought I'd have to use this jutsu against a beast like you, especially since this is my first time using it. The skeletal figure's eyes glowed red and muscle and tissue fabricated and coiled around the figure, giving it a humanoid form until armor that represented the one samurai wore in the feudal era formed around the body until the armored helmet took on the form of a fox head with jagged teeth that appeared to be snarling. Strapped to its ash was a katana. The armored hand suddenly swatted the hand away and struck the bijuu straight in the face and sent the beast crashing through several buildings. Unfortunately, I don't have time to play around, so I'm gonna end this quickly or else this entire country will be reduced to a barren wasteland. Yugura, say hello to Susanoo, god of the raging storm. The ethereal spirit reached for its katana and draws the sword and it ignites onto an ethereal flaming blade. Yugura shot out of the rubble roaring in pure rage and charges blindly at Naruto. Just like a mindless beast to charge into a fight blindly. Naruto stated while an ethereal shield formed around Susanoo's left arm. The Sanbi crashed right into the shield which barely blew Susanoo back and they got into a battle of strength. Susanoo uses the shield to knock Sanbi away and swings the blade downwards, penetrating the shell and cutting through skin. Brah. What is that blade and how can it hurt me in my bijuu state? Yugura wailed out as he backed off and swiped at the ethereal spirit that blocked the attack with the shield and then hacked off the beast's arm. Another agonizing wail escaped from its lips and attempted to regrow the arm only for Naruto to hack off a piece of its shell and perform a series of slashes across its body. Bigura staggered around trying to stand firm with its one arm. He tried to regrow the arm, nothing happened. What in the? I can't recover my arm. What did you do to me, you damn brat? He roared out only for the ethereal blade to be plunged into its skull and freeze up. It's done. Naruto said calmly while the ethereal spirit started to pull the blade backwards and started to slowly absorb the Sanbi. What are you doing? Yugura asked as it struggled to get away only for it to get sucked in a lot faster. I'm draining you of your beast's chakra. Naruto said as more of Yugura's beast form started to get sucked in. No. Stop this at once. Stop. He cried out as more of it got sucked into the blade until Yugura could be seen on one knee. After sucking away the beast's chakra, Susanoo sheathed its blade. This war is over, Yugura, and your reign is history. Naruto said as he took a step forwards only for his eyes to widen as he felt an untold amount of pain rack his entire body. He suddenly gripped his shirt and he vomited out a glob full of blood. Everyone's eyes widened when they saw this and Hitomi cursed under her breath. Damn it. I warned him that it was too soon to use that technique even if he is the new Kyuuubi. She said to herself. What's going on? He was fine not too long ago and now he's on the ground coughing up blood. Mei stated and looked at Kushina who was shocked beyond belief. Kushina, did Naruto gain any type of disease by any chance? She asked Aritid who shook her head. No, he and Shinku have been healthy since the day they were born and haven't gotten any form of disease at all. She answered. Naruto collapsed on one knee and started to cough up blood for a few seconds while Susanoo receded into its skeletal form. He looked at the ground and saw his vision was getting blurry. Damn it. I should have taken Hitomi-chan's advice and not used Susanoo until my body could adjust to my powers. He slowly got back on his feet, attempting to brush off the pain while Susanoo got back into its humanoid form. The guru got back on his feet with bloody murder in his eyes. Damn you, boy. Do you realize what you've done? You ruined everything. He screamed and pulled out a series of kunai with tags connected to them and threw them. They made contact and exploded, but when the smoke cleared, a shield was protecting Naruto, who was talking towards Yagura's shocked form, until he snapped out of it and fired a series of large water bullets that hit the shield, but they were shrugged off. He staggered back and his knees became wobbly. Your chakra is almost gone, Yagura. Give up. Naruto said calmly as his body tensed up in pain, but he attempted to shake it off. Yagura snarled and pulled his hooked staff. Never. He cried and leapt into the air with the staff raised over his head. He attempted to drive the blade into the shield, only for it to be deflected and sent him crashing into the ground while he lost his weapon. Susanoo receded and the aura around Naruto faded and he deactivated his eyes. When Yagura got up again, a fingerless gloved hand wraps around his throat and slammed him into a concrete wall. Naruto beeped his fist back and slammed it into Yagura's gut, making him cough out blood. Naruto then did a ram seal and activated his Sharingan, making Yagura's eyes widened as he gazed into them and the tomos spin rapidly. Kai. Naruto called out, causing Yagura's eyes to snap out of their glazed form. The blonde then reared his hand back and purple flames engulfed the tips, which are the kanji for metal, wood, fire, earth, and wind. Bajo Fuin, 5 elemental seal. Naruto called out and slammed his fingertips around the Kage's stomach, making him gasp out in pain and then slump over into unconsciousness. But Madara. The man was in an underground base sitting cross-legged in the shadows until his Sharingan eyes snapped opened. What is this? Someone has removed the Genjutsu I placed on Yagura, but that's impossible. He then made an attempt to perform a ram seal only for a pair of Sharingan eyes to appear before him glowing, and he let out a gasp. No way. There is someone out there who wields a Sharingan that matches mine in terms of power, but that can't be right. He said to himself and narrowed his eyes in the shadows. It matters not, for whomever did this will pay dearly. Back with Naruto. Naruto dropped the man onto the ground until he coughed out more blood and fell to his knees, clutching onto the area where his heart is and started to cough violently. Naruto. Kushina cried out and about to leap off the cliff, only to see another red blur to appear beside the blonde kneeling down, while he gritted his teeth in pain. Her and everyone's eyes widened when they saw 9 fox tails and fox ears on her person and knelt down beside Naruto. Kushina snapped out of her stupor and headed towards their location, as did the others. Said blonde was couching out blood violently while holding his chest in pain. I warned you not to use that technique so soon, Naruto. Your body is not yet ready to fully use it yet, even if you are the new Kyuuubi. Luckily you don't have to worry about shortening your lifespan. She stated while he spat some blood out of his mouth and looked at her weakly. The next time I make a stupid mistake like this, beat some sense into me. He stated, and the last thing he saw before he met darkness was his family heading towards them. 2 weeks later. The first thing Naruto saw as he opened his eyes was the inside of a white tent. He let out a groan and slowly sat up, shaking the drowsiness out of his head, and blinked a few times, realizing he was in a recovery room. He looked down to see his shirt was gone, but he still had on his pants. Beside his bed was Hitomi in her kid form curled up. The blonde smiled and reached out and gently pats her on the top of her head. She stirs in her sleep and opens her eyes to see a smiling Naruto. Hey. Was all he said before she morphed into her hybrid form and pulled him into a hug while he let out a grunt but patted her on the back. It's about time you woke up. Your family and friends were getting worried sick. She stated while he brushed his hair back and placed his feet on the floor. How long was I out? Naruto asked Hitomi, who sat down on a chair. 2 weeks. The ones who were on Yagura's side surrendered after you had Susanoo absorb Yagura's beast form and sealed off the rest of his chakra with that Fuinjutsu. I also explained to your mother and the others how I am free but still bonded to you. She explained. I've got a lot of explain to do, huh? He asked and got a nod from her. Oh well, it was bound to happen sooner or later. Where's my gear? He asked Hitomi, who pointed to a large scroll and duffel bag that was beside another chair. After he got dressed, he exited out of the tent and before he knew it, he was tackled and glumped by two blurs, Akakari and Yujito Nai. Naruto grunted once again and patted them on the back. Hey ladies. He strained out while they released him, but then got a brain duster to the skull by Yujito. Ow. What was that for? He cried out, clutching his head and glaring at Yujito, who glared back. For being a baka. You were out for 2 whole weeks and had us worried, you jerk. She replied in an angry yet worried tone. Your mom and sister have been restless while you were out, so if I were you I'd get to them first. Naruto's eyes widened and looked ashamed for worrying them like that. Sorry. That was my first time using that jutsu when I fought Yagura and I wanted to end the fight as soon as possible. I didn't want to use my bijuu transformation because I'd only be causing needless damage and harm anyone who got caught in the crossfire. He apologized while she huffs up and still glares at him. You may be a baka, but at least you're a caring baka. Carrie said with a smile on her face. Now go see your family before I kick your ass. Naruto smirks and gave her a salute and warps away. Kakashi was currently leaned against a tree reading his Icha book and Naruto appeared. Kakashi looked up and saw Naruto. Good to see you awake, Naruto. Kushina and Shinku are worried sick over you. He stated and Naruto rubbed the back of his head. Yeah, I know. Yujito informed me and I already got a brain duster to the head by Yugi-chan. He states while Kakashi chuckles, but afterwards, a serious expression forms on his face. Also Naruto, I think you'll need to explain about how you possessed the Sharingan when you fought Igura and why Kyuuubi is out of the seal roaming around. He replied and a serious expression formed on Naruto's face as well. I will in due time, Nai-san, but for now I just want to see my family. He replied. Kakashi smiled and nodded at Naruto. And so that you know, Naruto, I'm proud of you. Kakashi said while Naruto smiled and nodded a thanks before walking towards one of the tents. As he opened the flaps, he saw Shinku sleeping in one of the hammocks peacefully and walked over to her and knelt down. He pushed a strand of hair aside and gave her a kiss on the forehead, just like he did when they were younger. She stirred in her sleep and slowly opened her eyes to see her twin eye smiling. She rubbed her eyes in order to get a better view of her brother and her eyes widened. Hey Nikki? She asked and Naruto nodded in return. Tears formed around her eyes and the next thing he knew she leapt off the hammock and tackled him, but he managed to keep his footing while she sobbed into his chest, muffling how happy she was to see him up and okay. Naruto smiled and returned the hug. Sorry I worried you like that, Shinku-chan. Naruto apologized. Say, where's Kasan and the others? He asked as he released her while she wiped the tears from her eyes. That was when he was pulled into a bone-crushing hug by his sobbing mother and both Anko and Rin joined in, crushing the life out of Naruto who was turning blue. Mina. Can't breathe. He stained out to the 3 sobbing women. Kakashi on the other hand was chuckling while Yuga's sweat dropped and looked at her leader. No senpai, shouldn't we help Naruto-kun out before he dies from their hugs? She asked the son of the White Fang who shook his head. No, that would be bad for me, Yuga-chan. Kushina, Anko, and Rin-chan are dangerous when angry. Can you imagine how they'll react if I tried to separate them from Naruto? He asked his former subordinate who pondered on this but paled and shuddered. Good point. She replied. After that little scene, Naruto led them into a secluded sector of the forest. Hey Gaki, why did you lead us in the middle of nowhere? Anko asked, and that was when Hitomi appeared before them. Took you long enough, Hitomi-chan. Were you trying to hunt for rabbits again? He asked in an annoyed tone which made her rub the back of her head and smile sheepishly. When the others saw Hitomi they got into a fighting stance ready for a fight. Whoa, everyone chill out. No need to make this place into a warzone. Naruto said getting in front of Hitomi. This is the thanks I get for helping out in the war. I'm hurt. She said with a pout on her face while her ears dropped. But Naruto-kun, how do you know she won't turn on us? Rin asked the blonde who sighs. Simple, Ni-chan. 1. She can't and won't attack unless I say she can. 2. We are bonded by the seal so I can put her back in the seal if I want to. And 3. His eyes closed, confusing them for a few seconds, and he reopened them, revealing the eternal Manjikyu Sharingan and causing everyone to gasp when they saw his eyes. I can use the power of my eyes to stop her from going berserk. Sachi. Your eyes. What happened to your eyes? Kushina asked Naruto, whose expression went from serious to sorrowful. He then went through a few hand signs and a purple dome surrounds them. There, that way now one can listen into what I'm about to explain nor enter this barrier without getting scorched. He stated. What do you mean, Aniki? Shinku asked Naruto. Trust me, it's for everyone's safety, especially with all the powerful enemies that hate Konoha as well as our family Yamato. Naruto answered. Now I want each and every one of you to look directly into my eyes. He instructed and they did. The next thing they knew, they were in a world where the sky was blood red as was the moon that had a black outline around it. The ground was black and grey with white outlines, and when the others looked at themselves, they too were black with white outlines. What in the world? Anko asked while looking at her hands and the others. Relax Anko-chan, Naruto-kun just brought us into his realm. Hitomi stated while Naruto appears in a swirl of fire, but he was in the form he had in his timeline. He wore a pair of Anbu cargo pants with Anbu-styled sandals, a dark green Jonin flak jacket, and a version of his father's cape that had the kanji for Rokudaimei Hokage, 6 Fire Shadow, Nidaime Kairoi Senkou 2nd Yellow Flash, and Kami no Sharingan, God of the Copy Wheel Eyes, on the back. He looked like an older version of his father, but the difference was the cerulean eyes had slit pupils and canines jutted from his upper lip, which gave him a handsome yet feral appearance. Kakashi's and Rin's eyes bug out when they saw this version of Naruto, while Anko, Yugoa, and without realizing it, Kushina and Shinku, were blushing. She's right. The jutsu that I used is an illusion called Tsukiyomi. In this realm I control time, space, as well as the physical mass. I have absolute control over this realm. Naruto stated, and with a snap of his fingers, the world changes. The sky was midnight blue with shining stars and a glowing white moon, and they were now in an open field, and they were in their normal color. This is a secondary version of the Tsukiyomi I discovered while training how to use my eternal Manjikyu Sharingan. Interesting, but it doesn't explain how you gained those eyes in the first place, Naruto. Was that jutsu you used against Yugura an effect of those eyes? Kakashi asked Naruto, who nodded. Yes, that jutsu I used was called Susanoo, the strongest offensive and defensive jutsu that belonged to the Uchiha clan. As for how I gained them, I am not from this timeline. He answered, making their eyes widen. Instead of explaining it, I'll show you. So for the next couple of hours Kushina, Shinku, Rin, Kakashi, Anko, Yugoa, and Hitomi watched the events that occurred in Naruto's life. How Minato and Kushina died sealing Hitomi into him, how the villagers wanted him killed and was treated like dirt since the day he could speak and walk while trying to gain their acknowledgement. They also saw his first mission to Wave Country, the Chunin exams, invasion planned by Orochimaru, retrieving Tsunade and Sasuke when he deserted the village, etc. Afterwards they saw him when he was 16 and returned back to Konoha after training with Jiraiya and his family's techniques and learning Senjutsu. Fighting the Akatsuki until they started the 4th Shinobi War where the 5 elementals united to fight the organization with Naruto as the Rokudaimei Hokage and leader of the allied forces, and the battle where the ninja from each nation fought and died to their last breath. The last thing they saw was Naruto fighting Madara and Sasuke with him gaining the upper hand until the ancient Uchiha pulled a sneak attack. Afterwards, they all saw where they attempted to remove the last bijuu from his body with a demonic-looking statue in order to resurrect the Kyuuubi, only for Naruto to create a powerful seal that reversed the technique and absorbed the other 8 bijuu, as well as Madara and Sasuke, gaining their knowledge, eyes, and powers as well absorbing the Kyuuubi's powers and soul. Becoming the new Kyuuubi in the process. After watching this they found themselves back in the real world and remained silent for a while. My Kami. All of that actually happened to you? Anko asked and got a nod from Naruto. So Madara Uchiha was the one responsible for everything that happened. Kushina said in a tone full of hatred and anger while clenching her fists. Yes, he was pulling everything from the shadows and the reason why the world is in its current state. He believes it is his right to be the ruler of the world and a god amongst men. That cynical arrogant bastard actually thought he had the right to play with others' lives but paid the ultimate price, and now his power is my power. Naruto answered. So does that mean he's alive in this timeline? Rin asked Naruto and Hitomi growled. Yes, he is. Even in his weakened state that accursed ninja used those damn eyes of his to make me go berserk and attack your village. He even managed to cast a Yondaime Mizukage in a powerful gain jutsu and control his actions which resulted in the bloodline genocide to happen. That man is evil incarnate and I swear the next time I meet him I'll make his death slow and extremely painful. The 9-tailed vixen snarled out. Naruto placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. All in due time, Hitomi-chan. There are others aside from Madara that we have to worry about, like Orochimaru and Danzo for example. He stated, getting grim expression from the others. The Akatsuki won't be active for a while, which means the Snake and the Warhawk will be making attempts to destroy Konoha in their own way. They must be taken out of the picture as soon as possible, and then there's the other Jinchuriki that need to be warned. The blonde explained to them. Easier said than done, Gaki. Anko said. Danzo can easily eliminate any traces that are connected to him or his organization, and Orochimaru hasn't been spotted for a long time. Naruto on the other hand smirks. Oh, I already know where Orochimaru is hiding in Danzo. He'll be dealt with soon. That man has been a thorn in my family's side for too long, and I plan on ripping his vile heart out with my bare hands. Naruto said darkly. But what about the other Jinchuriki and Nikki? We already know Yujito and Karabi hold the Nibi and Hachibi, and that Yugura is the holder of the Sanbi, but we don't know where the others are. Shiku asked Naruto, who once again grinned. That is why having the knowledge of the eye-stealing team has its strong points. I already know who the vessel of the Achibi is since he resides in Sunagakure and is the Yondaime Kazekage's younger son. The vessel for the Rikubi is traveling around the neutral countries, the Nanabi is residing in Takigakure, and the vessels for the Yonbi and Gobi-ri in self-exile in Iwagakure. He explained, getting gobsmacked looks from them all. So what do you intend to do? Yugao asked Naruto, who brushed his hair back. Hopefully I can get into contact with them before the Akatsuki can get their locations and capture them, and afterwards I need to deal with Orochimaru, since he and his Sound Village won't be operational for about a year, and at the very least destroy some of his bases. All in all, I have my hands full. He said and deactivated the barrier and stood up. But for now let's go enjoy the celebration with the rebels and ending this war. He said, smiling while they all did the same. And this time I will make sure history doesn't repeat itself. Iguro was in a recovery room groaning from the slight exhaustion he was feeling. He slowly opened his eyes and saw the white ceiling and slowly sat up wearing a hospital robe and rubbing his head in slight pain and then looked around. What in the world? Where am I? He asked himself. So you're finally up, Hayagura-san? He looked in the corner and stepping out of the shadows was Naruto. If I may ask, who are you? He asked the blonde Jubi, who smiled back. I'm a friend as well as the one who freed you from the genjutsu you were put in. Naruto stated. Yugura frowned and blinked in confusion. Genjutsu? I don't remember. He paused for a moment and his eyes widened. Wait, I do remember seeing a pair of crimson-red eyes with 3 tomo-like markings surrounding the pupil, and after that nothing. Were they similar to these? Naruto asked as he activated his Sharingan and Yugura's eyes widened. Yes, exactly like those eyes, but the man who wielded them wore an Anbu-like mask. The only I can remember is saying that my actions will bring his goals into fruition, and everything after that is a blank. The vessel for the 3 tails replied. What has happened since then? Yugura asked Naruto, who now had a grim expression on his face. Naruto started to explain to Yugura what has happened since he was placed under the genjutsu and how he was forced to start the bloodline genocide war which took a lot of lives. After explaining everything that happened, Yugura was appalled and disgusted with himself. I can't believe all of this has happened. My village, my people, what have I done? He said quietly and placed a hand over his face. Yugura-san, you were not the one to blame for the events that have happened. The man who controlled you is responsible for this. He did this to weaken your village, and wherever he is hiding he will be dealt with. Naruto said to the Mizukage, who removed his hand from his face and let out an agonizing sigh. I may not have been responsible for this, but still the villagers and the shinobi who were under my rule won't accept me as their leader anymore. I have no other choice but to step down and pass my title on to another. One who can restore our village back into its prime, but the question is who? Yugura wondered. I have a suggestion for who can become the next Mizukage. Naruto replied, and Yugura looked at the blonde. Why not have Mei Terumi become the Gondaime Mizukage? She has the qualities to be a great leader, and she was the one who the rebellion forces for so many years. That and she possesses 2 powerful Kekkei Genkais that would make her a foe not to trifle with. Yugura looked at the wall for a moment and rubs his chin in thought. Mei Terumi. Yes, I remember meeting her when we were kids. She was compassionate and friendly to others, but she also had a fiery temper and emitted an aura that screamed, I'll kill you if you cross me. He replied, which made Naruto chuckles. Ain't it the truth, since females, especially those who are kunoichi, can be more dangerous than even a bijuu? I should know because I'm living with 6 of them. Naruto stated with humor in his voice while in parts of the reconstructed village Kushina, Hitomi, Shinku, Anko, Yugao, and Rin each sneezed. Anyhow, would you like me to get her for you? Naruto asked the vessel for the Sanbi, and he nodded. Naruto warped out of the room and a few minutes later, he appeared with a sheepish Mei and Naruto, who was sporting a black eye, which made Yugura blink in confusion. What happened? Was all he asked while Naruto's eye healed. She sucker punched me thinking I was one of her fans. Naruto muttered. Remind to not get on your bad side because I don't want to be on the receiving end of your right hook again. Mei blushed in embarrassment and rubbed her arm. I said I was sorry, Naruto-kun. She apologized. Sorry doesn't stop the throbbing. He said with a pout, and that was when she leaned over and kissed the side of his face. Does that help? She asked cheekily while his face heated up and he responded by warping away, making her chuckle. Still the flirt, I see. Yugura commented and she shrugged. He is cute for his age, and in a few years he's gonna be a heartthrob for women everywhere. So what is it you wanted to talk to me about? She asked Yugura. Garigakure, Market District. Samui and Ujito had just assisted some of the construction workers in moving some debris in order to clear the streets and were now sitting down and hydrating themselves by drinking out of water bottles. "We've made quite a mess, huh, Ujito?" Samui asked her fellow blonde, who nodded and wiped a bead of sweat off her head. "I can't believe I had to use Nibi's chakras so much. I need to up my training some more when we get back to Kumo," she said to herself while Samui nodded in agreement. Naruto appeared behind them via time warp and then he draped his arm over their shoulders. "Hey ladies," Naruto said with a grin on his face. The female blonde saw the new Jubi grinning at them and they smiled back. "Hey Foxy, shouldn't you be helping with the reconstruction?" Samui asked Naruto. "I just helped clear the southern section of the market district not too long ago. What can't I check up on my tensions?" he asked cheekily, which made Samui blush a little and look away while Ujito rolled her eyes but smiled. "You're such a baka, I swear. Always worried about others but yourself," she stated but grinned. "And that's what I like about you," she said and bumped her hips against his. "I know. So Samui-chan, has your back been suffering going through all this labor?" Naruto asked and she nodded. "Care for a massage?" His offer got him an instant nod from her, so he moved behind her and started to work on her shoulders. "Ain't no fair, why does she get one?" Ujito asked with a pout on her face and was inwardly fuming at her fellow blondes. "Because Yugi-chan, your shoulders and back can easily heal from any strain or aches thanks to a certain cat sealed inside of you," Naruto answered back while Samui moaned in relief as Naruto worked the kinks and aches out of her shoulders and back. Ujito huffed at that statement while Nibi snickered at how her vessel was acting like a little kid. "That, and if you haven't noticed, her watts are a lot heavier than yours," he stated, which made Samui's blush increase while Ujito's brows twitched dangerously. "Just what are you insinuating?" she asked in a strained tone that promised pain beyond belief. Naruto blinked a couple of times in confusion. "Me? Nothing, I'm just stating that her body hasn't fully adjusted to her developing yet," he answered, which made Ujito look stumped. "So you weren't making fun of the size of my chest?" she asked Naruto, who raised a brow and blushed a little. "No, why would I? Your chest is fine," he answered back. He stopped massaging Samui's shoulders and back, making her wonder why he stopped, but then a giggle escaped her lips due to the fact that Naruto was tickling her sides. "And to be honest, it really doesn't matter to me what your cup size is. I mean, Kari-chan is an example of that, and if you tell her I said that, then I'll tell Kurabi that he needs to up your training via Jinchuriki to Jinchuriki, and if I recall, the last time you guys sparred you had to spend a whole month in the hospital." He threatens, which made her pale and the pout with her arms crossed under her chest. He stops tickling Samui, who turned her head and gave him a playful glare as he released her. "Thanks. Naruto, I have a question for you," she asked. "What? You're gonna ask me out?" he asked humorously, only to be slapped lightly on the shoulder. "I'm serious, you baka. By any chance you're the last of your clan, right?" she asked Naruto, who nodded. "So that places you under the Kra where you can have multiple wives, right?" Again the blonde wielder of the ultimate Sharingan pondered on this and again nodded. "Yes, but I'm not just the last male Namikaze," he stated, which confused Samui. "I'm actually the last of 4 other clans." This right there made hers and Ujito's eyes widened. You see, back then there existed a clan known as the Uzumaki. Like the Namikazes, they were respected and feared for their skills in Fuinjutsu and also possessed a bloodline that gave them a strong life force. They also had the ability to suppress a bijuu's chakra like Hashirama could, but they used chakra chains. Not only that, but they were also distant relatives of the Senju clan, meaning that I'm also related to the Senju clan through my mother, who is the great-granddaughter of Mito Uzumaki and Hashirama Senju. He explained, which made their eyes bug out, thinking he was screwing with them, but by the serious look on his face they knew he wasn't kidding. "Ikami, then that means you're related to 3 of the 4 Kages of Konoha," Ujito states, but then smirks. Man, oh man, those bakas from that village would without a doubt raise a huge stink over this if they found out about this. Naruto shrugs at her statement while Samui pondered on something. "You said there was a 4th clan that you were related to, Naruto-kun. What other clan aside from those 3 are you related to?" she asked her fellow blonde. Naruto closed his eyes and when he opened them back up, revealing the fully mature Sharingan. "I was bound to reveal this sooner or later. These are the eyes that made the Uchiha clan respected and feared." "But how? How do you possess the Sharingan?" a stumped Ujito asked Naruto, who sighs and brushes his hair back. "I'll explain that when we get back to Kumo, and so that you know, these eyes weren't transplanted. I've had them since I was 6 but kept them hidden for a good reason," he answered. Samui remained quiet for a while but then smiled. Kari was right. "You're without a doubt one of the most surprising ninja in the world." Naruto deactivated his eyes and smiles. "What can I say? Unpredictability is my forte," he stated until a swirl of fire appeared beside him, and when it dies out, it reveals none other than Hitomi in her hybrid form. Speaking of which, Hitomi, where were you at? Naruto asked the vixen. Oh, I was out patrolling the forest and I found something that might interest you. She said with a toothy grin on her face. Naruto on the other hand raised an eyebrow. Oh? And what would that be? He asked while she turned to the other two. Sorry, but I'm gonna borrow Naruto-kun from you for a while. Ja. They disappeared via flame shunshin, leaving a confused Yujito and Samui. They suddenly appeared in the middle of the forest, and Naruto was confused with why she brought him here. Okay, is there any reason why we're in the middle of the forest? He asked Hitomi. She walked over to a large tree, and she simply slammed her fist into the tree, making it shake, and falling from it was a man who seemed to be wearing a black cloak with red clouds on it. He has short green hair, yellow eyes, and that his body has two different colored halves. His left side is completely white and the right side black. Unlike the white side, which shows a normal mouth, nose, and eye, the black side shows no visible orifices at all and only shows the iris of the eye. The black half also has white dots along the edges of his body, where the two halves meet. These are not flat markings, but rather protrude from his body, like little white bumps, and also has unusually rounded teeth. His fingernails are painted pink and his toenails are blue. He also wears his Akatsuki ring on the right little finger. It was Zetsu, a spy for the Akatsuki, and from the looks of it, he was a torn and bloody mess and was being restrained by what looked like razor-sharp chains that were impaled into him and in different areas of his body. A groan escaped from his lips while Naruto's eyes widened for a few seconds and then narrowed. Where did you find him exactly? He asked in an edged tone, and her grin grew even more. I found this little fly trap snooping around the outskirts of the construction. He tried to get away, but I ripped him from out of the ground before he had the chance to escape, and well, I wanted to see if I could make him beg for mercy as I used my claws on him. After doing that for a while I got bored and restrained him with some chains I created out of my metal elements and left him out to hang for a while. She explained while flexing her claws. She cupped his face in her hand and lightly shook it. If only you were here to hear him whimper like the dog he is and call out for Madara-sama. She spat the name out like it was vile and then slapped him hard. Wake the hell up, you eggplant, before I decide to turn you into a human salad. Zetsu looked up and saw a pissed of Hitomi and was attempting to get out of the chains. Why hello Zetsu. Did you enjoy your little game of hide and seek with Natsumi? Naruto asked the plant man who turned his head to Naruto. uubixMei? Zetsu asked in a strained voice only for Naruto to chuckle. Sorry, but that's my old man. So I'm guessing Madara sent you here to find out about his disconnection to Yagura, huh? This question caused Zetsu to remain shocked that this kid knew about a man who was said to be dead. Don't look so surprised. I know all about Madara and his little group of S-class ninja who want to collect the bijuu. Now then, I don't have any time to interrogate you right now, but trust me when I say that coward will regret what he has done to me, this country, and my family. Naruto said in a cold tone and activated his eternal Mangekyo Sharingan so that you all know it's a combination of Madara's and Sasuke's MS. Now then, I'll take your ring. Naruto grabbed the man's wrist while he channeled some lightning chakra into his hand and placed it over Zetsu's forearm. Afterwards, he did a slashing motion and severed Zetsu's right hand. The next thing the spy knew was that he was sucked into a swirling vortex and was gone. Naruto then sealed the arm away into a small scroll while he deactivated his eyes. That's one annoyance out of the way for now. He then turned to Hitomi, who apparently had a hint of lust in her eyes and shivered slightly. Do you have any idea how hot you are when you're pissed? She said as she walked over to him and wrapped her arms around his neck. Naruto tilted her chin up and their eyes met. At ease, my vixen. You'll get the chance to get with me soon. He said and kissed her lightly on the lips. Fine, but know this, Naruto-kun, if anyone is gonna be the alpha female of your future family or bear your kids first, it's gonna be me. She said and poked him on the chest with her index finger. So what about your mother and sister? You do realize that as the new Kyuuubi your DNA won't match theirs, right? I mean, if they actually want to be with you in terms as mates, then it wouldn't be considered incest. You can still use the abilities of the 4 clans you're aligned with though. Naruto pondered on this and sighs. My life just keep getting more and more complicated. I'm pretty sure I can convince Shinku to go with it, but Kushina on the other will be a little difficult since the only person she's ever been with is Toussaint. He stated while Hitomi shrugged. Oh, I think she'll change her mind, especially how she saw what you looked like when you were 18 years old in your timeline. She said with a grin on her face. Naruto on the other hand snorted. I don't think she would be that simple-minded, Hitomi. He said while she blinked and tilted her head sideways. It has nothing to do with being simple-minded, Naruto-kun. Believe it or not, females, both human, goddess, and even demon, are attracted to males with strength. You're an alpha above alphas, and being of such status will mean they'll gain strong heirs in order for the clan to grow once more, so don't be so surprised if you catch them both gaining feelings for you. She explained while the blonde took this info in. Wow. I guess I still have a lot to learn when it comes to being a true alpha, huh? He asked the vixen who nodded. To perfectly honest, despite my past life, I never had the chance to actually find a female who'd want to be with me aside from you, though your past self died during the process. The Kyuuubi soul was reformed into me and merged with my soul as well as its abilities. It was mostly because we were at war with that prick and the traitor. Hitomi blinked a few times and tilted her head to the side a little. She was about to speak up until she and Naruto sensed someone watching them. Shinji-san, it's rude to be spying on a fellow ally. He called and said. Devil of the Mist appeared, rubbing the back of his head sheepishly. Sorry. An old habit I picked up when me and Zabuza were members of the Anbu Assassins division. He apologized and glanced at Hitomi. I never thought I'd meet the most powerful bijuu up close without fearing for my life. Last I heard his old man sealed you inside of him. Said Vixen, shrugs and brushes a bang back. What? Did you expect some bloodthirsty monster who is hell-bent on razing villages to the ground and devouring ninja for the fun of it? She asked in a bored tone. Shinji snorted at the statement and shook his head. I may be human, but I'm not short-minded when it comes to Jinchuriki, or in the blonde Gaki's case former Jinchuriki. I've seen my fair share of what humans are capable of doing to each other. He answered. Ain't that the truth? The Uchiha clan are one example, especially since they do anything to gain power, even if it means killing family in order to do so. A cursed clan with a cursed bloodline. I can see the perks of having such powerful eyes on your side, but the cost in my opinion is too great. Anyways, is there something you need? Naruto asked the Zanbatsu-wielding shinobi. Yeah. It involves my brother currently being a missing nin. Even though he is in the bingo book for the failed assassination attempt with the state our village is in, we'll need him back on our side as soon as possible. Hell, I heard from your mother that the current Raikage would like to ally with Kiri once this war was over. Shinji answered. I see. So you want me to try to find your brother once we leave, correct? Naruto asked the man who nodded. I'll see what I can do. Knowing my luck, I'll run into him soon, and I can at the very least try to get him to come back to Kiri, though that'll more than likely have to involve a fight between us. Now it was time for Shinji to snort. You think? Zabuza only acknowledges the strong since in our country we respect strength. How do you think Mei became the leader of the rebellion? Though if you do fight him, keep all of his limbs intact because I plan on beating the crap out of him once he sets foot into Kiri. Shinji stated with an evil gleam in his eyes. Naruto on the other hand, sweat drops. Wow. With a brother like him I can see how Zabuza turned out. Then again, Kurabi and E-sensei are the same since the youngest one likes to rap bad lyrics while the eldest has the tendency to smash a mountain with his bare hands. He thought. Anyhow, we've got the villagers heading back and we're gonna celebrate the end of the war. Shinji said, and he, Hitomi and Naruto headed back to the village. For the next couple of days, the rebels and civilians celebrated over the end of the Bloodline War. During the event, the ninja from Kumo as well as Kushina and her family were hailed as heroes for assisting in the war, and Mei Terumi was given the position of the Gondai-mei Mizukage, and Kiri now had the new 7 shinobi swordsmen of the mist back. After the celebration, the Water Daimyo visited Kiri and made Kushina and her family honorary members of Water Country and was working on an alliance with the Lightning Daimyo. Before they left, the famous members of the group were thanked by the nin who knew of their reputation, and Mei personally thanked Naruto with a passionate kiss, which left said blonde stumped and redder than Hitomi's hair color, and during the voyage, got teased a lot by Kakashi and Rin due to the fact that their little brother had won the heart of Kiri's new Kage. Kumagakure no Sado, a few days later. After they made it back to Kumo, Kurabi greeted his 4 students by giving all 4 of them a group bear hug, squeezing the life out them, and after that event, Kushina informed him of the rebels succeeding in the war and their leader Mei becoming the Gondai-mei Mizukage and the Water Daimyo thanking them and Kumo for assisting. The guru was gonna do what Kurabi did and become a guardian for Water Country in an act of redemption, as even though he wasn't responsible for the events that occurred, he wanted to make amends for not being strong enough to fight the influence Madara placed on him. So the daimyos along with the Kages were gonna work on an alliance treaty in order for Kiri to come back into power once again. Right now Naruto was in an interrogation room that he asked to borrow with the permission of E and was gonna deal with Zetsu, whom he trapped in his dimension. As he walked into the room, his Sharingan formed and created a swirl-like ripple that brought Zetsu, who was bound by chains and seals that kept his chakra fully sealed and was on his knees. Hello Zetsu. I hope you like the accommodations in my dimension for the last few days. He said in a fake tone of kindness, well said. Plant Man looked up at Naruto with a glare. Oh, calm now, don't be like that. I've allowed you to recuperate during those days when I really didn't have to and could have outright killed you. Anyways, seeing as you're a member of Akatsuki, I'm guessing you were ordered to get the locations of all the current Jinchuriki, right? Naruto asked Zetsu, who remained quiet. Not gonna talk. That's fine with me since it means I'm right about your activities. He said and walked towards a silent Zetsu and crouches down to me his eye level. I already know about Akatsuki and your real leader. The one responsible for what has happened to Kiri. I believe he was the Sandaime Mizukage Madara Uchiha. He said coldly and Zetsu's eyes widened in shock. How do you know about him? He's been off the radar since his loss at the hands of Hashirama. Zetsu asked. A feral grin formed on Naruto's face and he grabbed the man by his hair and pulled him to his eye level. Wouldn't you like to know? I know everything about Akatsuki and I know you have members like Kisame Hoshigaki, Sasori of the Red Sands, Kakuzu the Heart Stealer, Deidara the Mad Bomber, and several others including the name and abilities of the figurehead. I believe his name is Pain or Nagato. Naruto answered and now Zetsu looked horrified. If you know about us then why capture me? Zetsu asked Naruto. Simple. Your abilities allow you to become one with the land and form anywhere, making you the perfect spy. Until now that is since you're nothing more than an experiment created from the stolen DNA of Hashirama Senju that was taken by Madara after he got his ass kicked big time. That and you'll become a nuisance to me if I allow you to continue with your mission and trying to hunt down my kin. And since I already have your ring I have no use for you so bye-bye. Naruto finished with a wave and opened both eyes again, reveling his EMS, and the last thing Zetsu saw was black flames clouding his vision. The next day. Jiraiya had just came to the compound Naruto and the others were staying at in Kumo, and when he heard how Naruto defeated the Yondaime Mizukage, even when the man used the full power of his bijuu, he was beyond stumped but was extremely proud with how far his sensei's kids have progressed. While he was staying at the place, Naruto explained everything to his godfather in how he was from a realm that had fallen to Madara's plan and how he used a powerful Fuinjutsu to absorb Madara, Sasuke, and reform the Kyuuubi's soul and power and become the new Kyuuubi, as well as gain their knowledge, abilities, jutsu, and their eyes. He nearly had a heart attack when he saw Hitomi, but Naruto assured the man that she wasn't a threat to anyone. Naruto also informed Jiraiya that in his timeline, he managed to master the sage arts when he trained with the toads and proved it by showing him the true sage mode, but informed the man to keep it a secret since the blonde only used it as a final resort but used some of its latent abilities in making his body stronger than it naturally is. Another thing Naruto informed the spy master of was that he intended to find the other Jinchuriki and warn them and their villages about the Akatsuki so that history didn't repeat himself. Jiraiya offered to assist Naruto in finding the other containers, such as the Ichibi, Yanbi, Gobi, Rikubi, and Nanabi, and Naruto accepted his help. After that, Jiraiya left to get his network operate in locating the Rikubi first. Right now it was dark and Naruto was sitting on the rooftop with Hitomi and her kid form curled up in his lap. Said blonde used his hands to gently stroke her back while she purred in content while staring at the glowing full moon. Should I feel offended by the fact that you're spying on me, Yuga-chan? Naruto called out and said female swordsman appeared next to him rubbing the back of her head in embarrassment. Sorry, Naruto-kun. I was just trying to respect your privacy. Oh, who am I kidding, was spying on you because I was worried about you. She answered with a blush on her face. She then sat down next to him and hugged her legs to her body. You seem to have a lot on your mind. Is it that obvious? He asked and she nodded at his question. Figures. Anko-chan always did say I was too much of a worrywart and needed to chill out. A small smile formed on Yuga's lips and brushed a strand of hair back. I just want you to know, Naruto-kun, that you don't have to do this by yourself. Carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders isn't a healthy thing to do. You should let those who care about you help. She insisted and watched him look down at his hands and sigh. You make it sound so easy. Back in my past time, I couldn't do anything to save those I cared about. I let them all down during the last war. I was the last member of the Shinobi Alliance alive. He clenches his hands and they start to tremble a little. I failed my senseis, my parents, and even the only person who ever showed me what it was like to be in love. That was when Yuga wrapped an arm around him and gently pulled him close to her. Hey, now don't you go pulling a Kakashi on me. What has happened then has happened, and no matter how much we don't want to realize it, your past is then. Instead of looking back you should look forward since you've been given a second chance to make things right. She explained. Plus Kushina sensei will more than likely beat the crap out of you for acting broody for the last couple of days. Naruto twitched at both statements. There were a few things that he feared more than anything minus losing those close to him, and they were an angry Kushina and a sadistic Anko when she has him trapped in a corner. But point. So aside from wanting to check up on me, is there any other reason why you wanted to see me, Yuga-chan? He asked with a grin on her face. Said former Anbu blinked in confusion for a while, but then a tint of pink formed on her face. From the way you're blushing, you wanted to have some alone time with me, right? He teased. Hitomi was snickering in her mindscape and Yuga's blush increased. No, I was just concerned about you, that's all. She stated. Sure you did. Anko did mention something about you wanting to touch my sword. I never knew you were a closet pervert Yuga-chan. He said, and she attempted to give him a brain duster to the head only for her fist to phase through him, and she got up cherry-faced and stomping off cursing Anko for that statement and muttering about blondes while Naruto snickers. She makes it too easy Hitomi-chan. Naruto asked a vixen who nodded. You keep this up and she'll probably go after you with a sword you pervert. She answered. I resent that. I mainly tease and flirt. Kakashi Nai-san and Jiraiya Kyofu are the biggest perverts to ever live. He replied while stroking her back and making her purr in content. Chapter end. Alright, that's it for today's video guys. Let me know in the comments section how was the story, and also don't forget to like, share and subscribe. I will meet you in another video. Peace out.